South Korea's inheritance tax was once seen as a threat to the Lee family's grip on the conglomerate. Instead, they're now richer than ever. $8.1 billion US. That's the inheritance tax bill Samsung's Lee family has just finished paying, following the death of Samsung patriarch Lee Kun-hee in 2020. It's the largest inheritance tax payment in South Korean history, roughly 46% of Lee's reported estate value. And for Samsung's ruling family, this was not just a tax problem, it was a control problem. The hefty bill raised concerns because Samsung is not just another company. It's South Korea's biggest chaebol, one of the family-run conglomerates that dominate the country's economy. 7 key Samsung affiliates generate revenue equivalent to almost a fifth of South Korea's GDP. But the Lee family does not own all of Samsung. It controls the group by holding just enough of the right shares like most other chaebol. That's why the tax bill mattered. Much of the family's wealth was tied up in Samsung-linked shares, not cash. If it had sold too many of those shares to pay the tax, its grip could have weakened. So how did the Lees avoid that? Well, they bought time. The bill was paid over 5 years in 6 installments. Some family members sold Samsung shares. Lee Jae-yong relied more on loans backed by shares and other assets. Dividends also helped. By the time the final payment was due, most of the burden had already been managed, but AI changed the ending. AI data centers need fast memory chips. That's Samsung Electronics' core business. As demand for advanced memory surged, investors piled in. Samsung Electronics has crossed $1 trillion US in market value, becoming only the second Asian company after TSMC to do so. Lee family's combined wealth reportedly jumped from about $20 billion US to more than $45 billion in a single year. That pushed them from Asia's 10th richest family to 3rd. That's the core of this story. The family survived the tax bill, then AI and Korea's market rally made it much richer. For investors, Samsung makes South Korea harder to ignore. AI demand is feeding profits and record market gains. Governance reforms are also making Korean stocks look more attractive. But Samsung's case shows the other side. A higher share price makes the Lee family richer today, but it could also make the next succession more expensive.
Something happens to Mr. J.Y. Lee now, the family has to pay a humongous inheritance tax according to the tax law. So the increase of stock price is good for any family, but they also have to be mindful that their tax liability become larger. So that's the reason why the Korean chaebol, they usually do not like the increase of stock price. They want to depress it to reduce the inheritance tax liability.
The Lee family managed the tax. AI lifted what it still owned, but the same rally that made the family richer could make the next handover harder.